Where is Ken? I'm hoping he's... Come on up and tell us what you're going to tell us. Ken Kamler.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, this morning I thought I would take you on a climb up Mount Everest and show you what it was like to be there when Everest had the worst disaster in its human history. There was a 2-day storm that raged on, and during that time I was the only doctor on the mountain. It was awesome to see the power of the mountain, but it was even more awesome to see one human being and his ability to withstand that storm. This is Mount Everest. It's 29,035 feet high. If you think about it, that's the height at which some transatlantic jets fly, cruising altitude. It's an extreme environment. At the summit, there's only 1/3 as much oxygen as there is at sea level. The temperatures can be 40 degrees below zero with winds 20 miles an hour or more. It's the kind of condition that you'd find on a summer day on Mars. And yet, that climbers are exposed out there for 16 to 20 hours. And the conditions are so severe. I remember on one of my own summit attempts, I reached inside my down jacket for a drink from my water bottle, only to find that the water bottle, which was against my chest, had frozen solid. This is the route up Everest. It's the South Col route. It starts at base camp, mounts through 4 camps. It takes 3 months to build our camps and then get ready for the summit attempt. So this is a view of base camp. This is where we start with our supplies and run them up the mountain, trip after trip, kind of leapfrogging up the mountain. Here I am setting up my medical tent at base camp. 4 yak loads of supplies were dumped in the tent, and it was my job to organize them into a medical unit. And this was our expedition. There were 3 main expeditions on the mountain. There was one from Scott Fisher's American team, one with Rob Hall's New Zealand team, and our team, which was run by National Geographic, but organized by the Explorers Club. This is a view from base camp starting up the climb. It's the first 2,000 feet are through what's called the ice fall. And this is a picture taken in the ice fall. It's literally a frozen waterfall, which actually moves very slowly. When you're in this, it's like being a rat in a maze. You can't even see over the top. And you climb 2,000 feet through the ice fall. This is a picture taken near the top of the ice fall. We always climb through at night because there's always the risk of these blocks of ice falling on you as it melts. So during the night, it's the coldest time. It's least likely to have any tumbling of ice blocks. This is a picture of me crossing a crevasse on the way up through the ice fall. We cross on aluminum ladders which are bolted together, and I have a harness on with safety ropes which are tied independently on either side of the crevasse. This is one of the crevasses we crossed. A lot of them are 10 stories deep or even more. One of my climbing friends says that the real reason we climb through at night is because we don't want to look down and see what we're climbing over. Okay, this is Camp 1, the first flat spot where you can set up your tents after the first day of climbing. And then we move on up the mountain. This is a view taken looking back down the mountain. We're climbing on fixed ropes here. These are 250-foot pitches, which we anchor into the ice so that if you fall, you don't fall 5,000 feet, you fall 250 feet. That's quite enough. Okay, this is a view looking up toward the summit of Everest. You can see over here, you really get an idea of the slope that you're climbing. This is a relentless slope that we climb up. And notice here that up toward the summit of Everest, there's no snow. Everest is in blackface. And that's because it's so high, it's in the jet stream, and the winds are constantly scouring the face of Everest. So the snow doesn't get a chance to accumulate. What looks like a cloud behind the summit ridge is in fact just snow being blown off the top. So we climb on up toward the summit, up into the clouds and into the thin air, and stop at Camp 4, the highest camp. Everyone's on oxygen at Camp 4, and oxygen supplies are limited, so you only have a few hours really to decide if the weather is good enough to go for the summit or not. So here's a couple of climbers resting on oxygen. Here's a picture of Rob Hall. He was the leader of the New Zealand team. Here he is using his radio. This actually was a radio that he used to call his wife later on in the story. And these are some climbers up at Camp 4 waiting to see if they can make an attempt for the summit. The summit's up here. This is actually too much of a snow plume. This means too much wind, and that would not be a condition where you'd be able to go for the summit. You'd have to back down if that stayed that way. But for us up near the summit, we waited a while, and actually the weather cleared. And you see the snow plume disappeared. It looked quiet and calm. It looked like a good chance to go for the summit. So team started out at midnight. We always start at midnight on summit day to give us as much time as possible to make it up and back. Here are some climbers just starting up toward the summit ridge. And here's a climber on the summit ridge. This is the last 1,500 feet of Everest. Is along a sheer ridge that you see here. This climber's moving up toward the summit. But what happened that fateful season was that the storm unexpectedly picked up. And here you see some really ferocious wind blowing up off the top of the summit. Climbers were already up on the southeast ridge when this storm hit. This is a picture taken up near on the southeast ridge, up near the summit. This is me. I've got completely covered over with gear. I've got a face mask on with a rebreather. You can see in this climber, he's got 2 oxygen tanks in his backpack with a hose leading up to his oxygen. We carried two titanium oxygen tanks and not much else, maybe a chocolate bar and a pair of gloves and a water bottle. This is a picture taken along the southeast ridge. This is the final approach toward the summit of Everest. This is where these climbers were caught in the storm. And if you notice, the climbers are all unroped. That's because this area is such a sheer drop-off that if you were roped to another climber, you would likely just pull that climber off the mountain with you. So you're sort of on your own. If you're going to fall, there's no need to take somebody else with you. If you fall to your left, you fall 8,000 feet into Nepal. If you fall to your right, you fall 12,000 feet into Tibet. So it's probably better to fall into Tibet because you'll live a little longer. But either way, you fall for the rest of your life, so don't know that it really matters.